Hello. Welcome to Second City Liberty, a Chicago centric podcast that takes a look at politics, current events, sports, and pop culture through the lens of liberty. I'm your host, Jim Hume. Thanks for tuning in. The February 28th municipal election here in Chicago will feature candidates for mayor, city council, the newly created police district council, city treasurer, city clerk. All 50 city council seats are up for election. And this is the first election after ward redistricting based on the results of the 2020 census. So, with the new ward lines that have been drawn and more than a dozen incumbents not seeking reelection, Chicago City Council will have a new look in 2023. The 40th Ward is found on Chicago's north side, located primarily in areas around Rose Hill Cemetery. It includes parts of Lincoln Square, Ravenswood, Andersonville, Budlong Woods, West Rogers Park. And my guest today is Jane Lucius. Thanks for joining us.
No, you're welcome. I'm glad to be on here.
Well, I appreciate you jumping in. Um, Tell us a little bit about your background, Jane, and really what's kind of motivated you to run for city council.
Well, I bought my house in 1992, and it's the house my husband was actually raised in. We bought it from my mother-in-law, and we had a really bad. We bought it, but the house next door was a nightmare. I mean, the police were there every night. It was just a crazy house. And one day, I get a flyer in the mailbox from a girl named Amanda Solon, and it was about a neighborhood group. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? There's actually an organization that represents the neighborhood, and it was called Neighbors of Edgewater West. And it was called New, and started going to the meetings immediately, got very involved. Just really, it changed my whole life and my whole way of thinking about the way you can organize and get things done. And our neighborhood wasn't that great then. We had a lot of sort of hot spots in the area that really needed to be cleaned up as far as being dangerous and things like that. So became involved in the neighborhood. To make a long story short, I became the president of that neighborhood group. And when Facebook came along and we got a Facebook group, people tended to talk on Facebook a lot, but they didn't get anything done. It was all talk and no action. So I was kind of like the lone wolf out there by myself, especially dealing with absentee landlords, which is a big problem in this city. There's no accountability. So I always I got a lot done by myself. My family even complained to me about how much I was doing. And, people don't appreciate you. You shouldn't be doing this. And I said, I don't care. I'm going to help people who are having a problem. And so in the last 4 years, I really have had a lot of problems and I could get no help. And I just thought, somebody said to me, you're the alderman in action, but not in name. And then my friend Brian Haig, who owns a store called the Green Element, he came to me because I run the CAPS program for the 40th and the 48th Ward. And that's kind of a big program. And he came to me for some help. We became fast friends in about 2015. And he just said to me, I don't know why you're not the alderman. And he started helping me to run, got me motivated. I was meeting at his house. And then Harry Osterman stepped down, and Brian now is running for alderman in that ward.
So and for those not familiar, the CAPS program is just kind of a community organization that works with local law enforcement.
Fantastic program, and I really think that CAPS should just really be something that people put their minds on. You really get to know the officers there, and you see how much that they want to help you. And we've helped hundreds of people through the years.
Great. Well, kind of sticking with kind of the public safety issues that are facing the city. Some activists they claim that it promotes guilt by association and others see it as a valuable tool in reducing violence and convicting dangerous criminals. As alderman, um, or as a candidate for alderman, or as alderman, would you look to reinstate the gang database? The Chicago Police Department has put forth a kind of a new plan for it, I believe, back in November, and
Mhm.
it's faced a lot of backlash from some groups. But yeah, would you work with the police to try and reinstate that gang database?
I'm not so sure because what happens is gang members they get out of gangs, but their name is still on that database. So, what is that database actually being used for? Who's using it? There's a lot of databases out there. And you're probably on one. I'm probably on somebody's database.
I'm sure I am.
Yeah, right. Me too. And you have to wonder, so yeah, I don't really think that that's something that, I would really look to as something very kind. If they can come up with a way of making a database useful, yeah, but right now, I don't really know if we should be doing that.
Yeah, it's like a lot of good ideas that are out there in theory, but again, putting people on a list or on a database um,
Yeah. Well,
starts
and then
to
when you
starts
try
to
to
be a slippery slope when it comes to privacy and freedom of association.
make a fresh start in life and your name is somewhere on a database, So, yeah, I don't really care for those databases.
All right. Keeping in line with these some of these other public safety questions, the the shot spotter system is installed throughout many Chicago neighborhoods. It's cost the taxpayers somewhere over $10 million.
Mhm.
Um, this this article here highlights a report from the Inspector General's office from 2021. It found that the shot spotter system was only about 9% effective in detecting actual gunfire. Do you think the city should continue, funding this program, enacting this program that has such a low rate of accuracy?
Yeah, probably not unless they got the encrypted scanner because if you're in the alley shooting the gun, you're listening to the police scanner and okay, I got to stop shooting this gun because the police are 2 blocks away and I can go hide now or whatever. But yeah, and I mean they're very, very expensive. We don't have them in the 20th or the 24th ward. Just certain wards have them and they're extremely expensive. So I'm not so sure that, they're accurate without the scanner, the privacy of the scanner.
Yeah, a lot of times from that inspector general report, they're reporting cars backfiring or fireworks, which are as common as gunfire in some areas of the city. So yeah,
Yeah,
it for
yeah, they're all and those fireworks are all year long, by the way, now.
oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, they say they're helpful because if the shot spotter person wouldn't have to call 911 anymore because, but, I don't see them as useful, and also I'd like to talk to more officers about them, because they have different takes on them, but they are very expensive.
They are, and so another issue that you did mention were the police scanners, and Mayor Lightfoot has wanted to make the transmissions encrypted. That limits folks from listening in on the scanners, finding out what's going on in their own neighborhood. It limits the media. I'm a big Twitter person, so I follow a lot of the scanner feeds on Twitter to find out what's going on. Um, uh, would you want to keep that transparency of the scanners, or do you favor some type of encryption there?
Well, I love listening to the police scanner, and I have for a long time, especially when I started in CAPS many years ago. I started listening to. I found them intriguing because I couldn't believe how dangerous things were for the police. I mean, extreme. What a dangerous, dangerous job. And I was also noticing that how many of those calls were for domestic, domestic violence. I mean, just one after another. And but I think that as much as I like listening to them, I think that it would help police they if people couldn't hear them, if they had the privacy, because like there's these burglar rings that go around. Actually, we had a big one here on Paulina a couple weeks ago, and they listen to that scanner and they know where the cops are coming. They're like, "Hey, gotta go. Round up your last things you're taking. We got to get out here. The cops are coming." So, yeah, I wouldn't mind them going that way and having the privacy. I wouldn't be able to hear them anymore, but at least I think it would be very helpful, because criminals, if you can still use the word criminal, um, criminals wouldn't be able to hear them.
Yeah,
That
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's in favor of transparency in a lot of issues, but you definitely could see the argument for maintaining public safety by not allowing criminals to know when law enforcement is coming.
Yeah, and
That's for
they do
sure.
listen to them. I mean, they
Sure.
really listen to them. I know that because at the CAPS program, we had these guys come in from Cook County Jail that were, they were actually all handcuffed and in chains and everything, and orange jumpsuits, just like something you'd see on Netflix. And we were able to ask them a lot of questions. And one of the things they talked about was the fact that they listened to the police scanner. And that's how they know how to get away from places very, very quickly, because they know the cops are, let's just say, within 4 blocks. And they have plenty of time to run out the door, jump a fence, get in a car, or just get on a bicycle and get out. Because now people think they're after your, I think years ago they were stealing TVs and things like that. Well, now they just really want to get in and get your passport, your bank statements, and things like that. So they carry very, very little with them, and they could jump on a bicycle and get out of the way really quickly. So yeah, that's one of the things they talked about, was the fact that the police scanner was very important to them. So you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an argument to be made for both sides there. Um, this is an article from last spring, I believe, how some residents in Bucktown had hired armed private security to kind of keep an eye on their streets and their property. Uh, we know that there are issues with police showing up in a timely fashion. I know here in Ukrainian Village, there was the local um, police station was shut down 5 years ago, so that it makes the response times a lot farther, a lot slower, and a lot of residents talk about private security. Uh, is that something that you would encourage or find ways to facilitate as a member of the city council that would allow neighborhoods to kind of look into this option?
Well, first of all, when you talk about private security, or like in this article, it said, I think you said it was armed private security.
Yeah, in this particular case, they were armed. They were armed private security.
Well, that runs into a lot of money, insurance policies. What are the neighbors telling these armed security people? Do they want certain people not to be in their neighborhood? Does that go into racial profiling? You have to consider all those things. If you just get security that isn't armed, you have it's kind of a false sense of a security, because you've got really just somebody driving around who knows, they might be on their cell phone. I'm not saying they are, but maybe they are. And it's a false insecurity, because they end up calling 911 for you. It's like, right, an example would be, I don't live too far from Loyola University, and I always see the Loyola security cars driving around. And I always think of it, well, let's keep it nice. I'll say it's a false sense of security. I was going to say something else, but I better not. But it's a very false sense of security. And I was thinking the other night, you see them driving around, but lately students walking down the street have cars pull up to them, people jump out, rob them, and drive away. And there's just you're not really secure.
Yeah, I think the CTA recently also in a way to kind of address some of the safety issues started putting unarmed security on trains, and so far I don't think it's had any effect whatsoever. It's again it gives some people a false sense of security, but when the perpetrators know that they're those security agents are not armed, I don't think it's much of a deterrent at all.
Yeah, they just have a uniform on. It's almost like the ones that you see, at Aldi or something like that. I heard one politician say that, he's heard of cases where that security actually, when a crime's being committed, they run the other way. I mean, they're afraid.
Well,
They
sure,
only,
yeah,
they only have a uniform on.
yeah, yeah. No,
So,
and their job is to report it, and yeah, they're not to engage. So
right. Absolutely.
just here's an article from today, something that is kind of near and dear to me, um, with the recent passing of the assault weapon ban. There's a number of groups that are uh, taking the state, J.B. Pritzker and the Attorney General, to court, including the Illinois State Rifle Association. Um, it's the right to me, the right to self defense is guaranteed by the Constitution, and over the past few decades, if you everywhere from the state enacting the FOID card in the late '60s to um, more and more stricter gun control legislation in Cook County and the city of Chicago. Uh, it's made that these laws have tried to restrict firearm ownership within the city limits. Some could argue, I'd be one of them, that would say one of the reasons why we are seeing sharp increases in violent crime is because of the restriction of law-abiding citizens to defend themselves.
Hmm.
Um, so, as being an alderman, part of the city council, what can you do, or what plans could there be to help kind of peel back some of those restrictions and try to maybe restore some of our constitutional rights to bear arms?
I was looking at that, the statistics on some of that, and I know there's 450,000 concealed carry in Illinois, and I don't think those are just in small rural towns. I think a lot of that is in the city. As a matter of fact, I was extremely surprised. I went to a function the other night. I don't want to say where, and the owner of this beautiful home that I went to, I was talking to him, and he would be the last person I'd ever think of to say this to me, but he is concealed carry. And I was like, really? He said, yeah. He said, yeah. He said, I have a lot of things in my house. And he goes, I have a job that, sometimes I have to go to in the middle of the night. And so I think there's a lot of gun owners out there in Chicago, a lot more than people realize, because people are so tired of crime and they're protecting themselves. And I was looking, and there's 2.4 million FOID card owners in Chicago. I mean, in Illinois now. I shouldn't say Chicago. And so I think there's a lot of people who are carrying guns. A lot of people are carrying guns because what happens if somebody's trying to break into your house and you can't get a cop? Are you supposed to just kind of stand there and wait, or hide in your closet, or I don't know. Things are getting really out of hand with crime.
There are no gun stores or gun shops within the city limits of Chicago. You have to go to the just a couple locations in the suburbs. Um,
Yeah, I think there's one in Lincolnwood. I
there's
think.
one in Lincolnwood. There's one in Oak Lawn. Melrose Park, Des Plaines, when you're right on the fringes of the city.
Well, I
But
noticed the one in Lincolnwood is um, about a month ago. I was by there and it was packed, packed. That should tell you something, because that's just right over the city line.
Yeah, a lot of people were getting nervous about that upcoming bill that's now passed, but we'll see how it plays out in court, and hopefully this is uh, the courts will see it as an overreach of the state government, and that hopefully also trickles down to the more local level. I know there's
Yeah.
80 counties in Illinois where the sheriffs have already said they're not going to enforce this. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops here over
Yeah.
the next few months.
I have a little bit of a different mindset about things because I'm originally from Kentucky, and I visited Chicago my whole life because I have a sister that's older than me, and I would visit her. And I coming from Kentucky, you sort of think differently about guns and gun laws, and uh, when people have guns, if they obey the rules, they're fine. I mean, people people in Kentucky, they carry guns, and people they don't shoot each other because they know the other person has a gun. So yeah, so I have a little bit of a different mindset, I think, than
Sure.
most people in Illinois do. So
Yeah, I've also noticed that the language has changed, and I just kind of tweeted about this earlier today. How uh, you know ev- you read about it in the news, or you listen to politicians talk, and it's gun violence, gun violence, gun violence. When I'm old enough to remember when we called it gang violence, and that term has disappeared, and nobody says that anymore.
no, they
So it's not the guns that are committing the violence. We know where the violence is coming from for a vast majority of it, and
right.
I think I think until we address a lot of those issues, it's not going to get any better. But changing the language there, switching it to kind of putting the emphasis on the object rather than the people that are the ones that are committing the violence, I think has done a disservice to a lot of parts of Illinois,
Oh yes.
Chicago and Cook County in particular. But let's move on to uh, to taxes. Um, Chicago sales tax is the second highest in large cities, and that's when you account for when you add in the county tax and state tax, and it's second highest in the nation when it comes to large urban areas. Um, and a lot of working families, they're living paycheck to paycheck with it, and especially with the way inflation is now, uh, their money is just squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
Um, Something that I ran on when I was running for county board was to uh, certain items I believe shouldn't be taxed at all, and that's like food, clothing, personal care items, uh, even gasoline, fuel, things that working families need to survive every single day. It's a To me, it's almost immoral that the government is making you pay a fee for these things that you need to live.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, as a member of city council, alderman in working with the city, again, you'd be one person. I know one person can't do it all, but what kind of steps could you take, or programs in place to help reduce that sales tax burden?
Well, one thing is, I think one person can influence other people, hopefully. We'll see. I don't know. Um, as sales tax, I don't know as much about as property tax. Although I
We'll
do,
get to that next.
yeah, okay. I do always look at my sales tax because, like all of a sudden I look and there's another $7 tacked on to, maybe a few things that I've gotten. And that's probably something I need to research a little bit more is the sales tax. The property tax I know a little bit more about. But you got me intrigued about the sales tax because it's something that I look at constantly and think, my goodness, why is there an extra 7 or 8 or 9 dollars tacked onto my, groceries? So honestly, Jim, I need to research that more.
Sure, sure, and also Chicago has this entertainment tax. So if if you buy tickets to a Cubs game, or to a concert, or have dinner at a restaurant, there's additional taxes that are being under this entertainment tax. So really trying to shave off the taxes on some of these essential goods, and
Yeah.
and items that
Well,
people need would go a long way.
people don't pay attention to that, myself included. I mean, I do pay attention to it, but you never think about the fact that, we need to do something about it and we should do something about it. And hopefully, wouldn't it be great if I could do something about it? I didn't even think about that as far as running for alderman, but that's something that I'd really like to sort of take on because it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
we
no,
are
no,
taxed,
absolutely.
yeah, we are taxed to death.
So, bringing up that's the property taxes. This is from January 12th, I guess, just last week. Some residents in Pilsen, kind of on the south side of the city, um, group got together, formed a protest, and they're just protesting the exorbitant hikes in property taxes.
Yes.
It's it, a lot of these residents are barely able to afford where they're living now, and it's driving them out of their homes where their families have lived for a couple generations.
Hmm.
It leads to the what they we call gentrification, where you know neighborhoods are getting too expensive to live in, so only people with a little bit more money can afford to live there. They
Right.
slowly push the people out that have been living there for years. Now that neighborhood becomes the place to be. The property becomes more expensive. Property taxes go higher, and it's pushing the next group of people out. So it's a vicious cycle that just keeps uh, pushing people out of their generational neighborhoods, their generational homes.
Hmm.
And what can be done here to kind of curb these insane hikes in property tax rates in Chicago?
Yeah. Well, I'm a homeowner myself, and I really am shocked at the fact that we're having this increase. The bill hasn't come yet, but it will. And I got some neighbors behind me that are on Paulina, and they've been here since probably 1993 or something like that. And uh, my friends just said to me, we're afraid we're going to be taxed out of our house. I think a lot of people. I have a friend that's a widow. Her husband was killed when he fell off of a ladder, just suddenly, and she doesn't know how she's going to keep her house. She's in the 40th ward, and the guy I'm running against, he raised, he voted to raise our taxes, and he's a renter, and that right there to me is it's pretty ridiculous that a renter raises property taxes for people who own homes. So I definitely it would never vote to raise taxes. Um, because I know it affects I mean, it worries me about, okay,
Well,
wait a minute.
it's going to affect renters too. I mean, when your landlord's property taxes go up, then your rent's going to go up. That's just the way it
Oh,
goes.
oh,
So
yeah.
yeah. So when the property taxes go up, now not only are it's not only the homeowners that are paying that.
Mhm.
It's the landlords are passing that cost onto their tenants. So it's causing rents to increase as well. So even those that don't own property are having a hard time
You're
affording to live
exactly
in some of
right.
these areas.
A lot of millennials that I talked to, I met a guy walking his dog, I don't know, probably like in early, maybe late October, and I was passing out cards, and I told him who I was, and he said, "Hey, you want to come to my building with me?" I ended up walking over to his building and I met all of the neighbors, and they were all paying 2,200 a month. Their buzzer to get in the building doesn't work, so if you're going to go over there and see them, you have to text them first. The lights in the hallway sort of come on when they want to. Sometimes they go off on. The landlords live in California
Mm.
and own multiple buildings,
Yep.
and it's becoming like that where your landlord really lives like in, another landlord around here lives in Seattle, and they just buy up properties, and the millennials get in there, and it's I mean 2,200 a month, and that's really a lot of it is due to property taxes. But then a lot of it can be caused by greed too, but I think it's the taxes more than anything, and I was trying to explain that to them about that these landlords are really paying high taxes, so it's passed on to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you don't have
absolutely.
to be a homeowner to feel it. My kids still live at home. And I mean, it's a good thing we all have fun and get along together. But, they save their money because, it's who wants to go out and spend all that rent money? So it's a good thing they're big savers, but boy, they'd have to save for a long time to buy anything around here.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and especially when you're paying that kind of rent, it makes it hard to save up for,
Oh, yeah.
if you want to, if you do want to buy a place to save up that kind of cash for a down payment and all that. Um, uh, paying rent on time doesn't even has no factor on your credit score either. So
Mhm.
you're really behind the eight ball. So yeah, renters really do have to realize that these property taxes affect them. I
Yeah.
I say indirectly, but no, it's directly because it's definitely affecting the cost of your rent.
Yeah, I was explaining that to them. I don't think they'd ever heard that before. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't think they'd ever heard that. I'm like, "Well, this all really goes back to, property taxes."
Hmm.
And they were like, "What do you mean?" So I explained it to them, and then they understood that, we had this big increase. And I felt really bad for them because they were just such it was a six flat, and it could be such a nice building, but the landlords have just kind of moved these people in and haven't really done anything for them. I think their heat, instead of having no heat, they had too much heat, and they have to open their windows. So it's a,
I live on the third floor of a three flat, and if I do have to crack the windows sometimes with the
yeah,
radiator heat. That's just kind of the nature of some of the the steam heating here in a lot of these
yeah. Well, I
older
mean, it's better
buildings.
than being cold,
Oh, for
you know,
sure, absolutely.
but when you're paying 2,200 a month, I mean, that's a lot of rent. You
I
know,
know, I know, I
I don't
know.
even want to tell you what I pay in rent because it would make me feel like I was 100 years old. But my husband and I had a one bedroom for 9 years, and we loved it. We loved it so much, and it was 250 a month.
Hmm.
So, and we had a landlord. We actually had a landlord, not a property management. We had a landlord. His name was Steve. And you could call him and say, "Hey, this is going on or this is going on," and he would come and help you with it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I'm fortunate. Our landlord actually lives in the building, so he
oh,
lives on the
nice.
first floor. So it is nice, not an
Yeah, you got it
absentee
made there.
landlord.
Mhm.
So I'll get on to Chicago public schools. Here's a another article that made the news recently. Watchdog finds issues with unchecked overtime pay, fiscal mismanagement, and an amazing number of cases of sexual misconduct going on within the Chicago public schools. Reading this article is just mind blowing. The amount of issues that we're experiencing with the Chicago public school system. Um, in enrollment in Chicago public schools is way down. Test scores are way down.
Yeah,
So, and we're spending more money per student than ever before. And I don't have kids in Chicago public school system. My son is grown, but we're still paying for all that through the property taxes. Uh,
right. Yeah.
would you be in favor of, or would you encourage, as a member of city council, uh, you know, alternative ways of funding schools, voucher systems, allowing parents to have more control in their kids' education?
I do think the parents should have more control. As for the voucher system, I'm believe it or not, I'm having coffee with a teacher tomorrow afternoon, and well, actually, one's a teacher and one's a retired teacher, so I'm having really coffee with two teachers. So I really would like. I wish this interview had been with. I'd like to talk to them about the voucher system because I don't know that much about it. I'll be honest. But it's something I'd like to research, and I don't wanna, pretend I know about it and start blabbing when I don't know, and I really
Sure.
need to research it.
Yeah.
And
Illinois is one of, I believe, 37 states where if you just look at the cost per student, it's actually cheaper to send your child to a private school than a public school in Illinois. Now, of course, you're still paying for that public school from your taxes, which makes private schooling much more expensive. But if that tax money, or if that money, earmarked money, parents were left to their own devices to spend it how they wished on their child's education, we could see a lot of costs come down, and yeah, everything from private schools, parochial schools, alternatives education, homeschooling. Um, there's a lot of resources out there that I think are being kind of held hostage through the property tax program that funds our school. I think it's over 50%, 56% of the property taxes are going to the schools, and we're
Yeah.
not really getting a return on that investment at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, I do. I definitely think that parents need to have control. Um, I homeschooled my kids after fourth grade because they're classical pianist, and the homework was just insane at the time. It was like, you know, it didn't make sense when you're in the third and fourth grade to have, that much homework. It was like they'd come home after school and they'd be doing it all night. And so I did homeschool and it worked out for us. And not everybody can do that, but I took control of that situation. So I think parents who do send their kids to school do need to have control over, what happens. But I do wish I knew more about that. But honestly, the vouchers and all that, I need to learn about that.
Yeah, it's just a whole concept of uh, the kind of that money follows the student instead of following the schools or the teachers or the teachers union, which is really what controls the educational system in Chicago.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Soldier Field, there was a developer that came up with this great plan to reimagine Soldier Field, and it was in an effort to try to keep the Bears within the city limits. The developer's proposal would come in at a price tag of around $2 billion. Um, if you've followed any of these types of projects in the past, you know that no stadium project has really come in at budget or on time. Um,
Right.
and taxpayers are still on the hook for the last renovations of Soldier Field. Um, so uh, as an alderman, as part of city council, would you look to use any tax dollars to try to keep the bears in the city limits? Would you be in favor of redesigning and maybe improving Soldier Field to attract another NFL franchise? Just kind of your thoughts on spending money on this particular type of project.
Yeah, have the Bears already chosen to leave no matter what, or have they? I thought
Uh,
they'd already chosen
Yeah, I mean,
what they were gonna
it's
leave.
pretty much a done deal. In fact, I believe I was just read something that this week they're kind of finalizing some arrangements for that property out in Arlington Heights.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, where's that money gonna come from to, you know, fix Soldier Field to make it beautiful? Where is it coming from? From
Well,
us?
it would come from tax dollars, and things like either increase in sales taxes, the entertainment tax. The entertainment tax was used to do a lot of these stadium renovations in the past. Like I said, that the last group of renovations still hasn't been paid for. Um, there's also the argument though that having a having that stadium and the franchise downtown is going to bring a lot more travel, tourism, hotels, restaurants, things like that. Um, so there is that argument that the Bears leaving downtown would certainly impact some of those hospitality type of businesses, and kind of restrict the tourism and travel to downtown.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. I didn't even think about that. The fact that hopefully, I mean, I think it'd be great if other teams came there, Honestly, it makes me kind of sad that, there's this always things have to change. It's one thing you can depend on, that things change. And my mom always said that to me. And the fact that they're going to leave, or they've already left, right? For sure. Or
It's looking that way. They're definitely moving in that direction. I believe
yeah,
they're still required to. They're under contract with the park district for 2028 or something like that. So another 4 or 5 years. But in that time, they're going to be working on developing
yeah,
this suburban property, which is the old Arlington Park racetrack.
yeah. I know that seems so strange to me that they would be out there. But then again, you have to think, if they if they decide to say, "Hey, we're going to renovate Soldier Field," where does that money come from? Us? I mean, I don't know. I don't know where that money's coming from.
Yeah, again, I mean, if you're using this entertainment tax to try and generate money for renovations to the team, then you definitely need the team to stay. So if the team's
Mhm.
leaving and you're going to hike up that entertainment tax for renovations, now you've got an attraction that's no longer there.
Yeah,
So you're going to have to find other resources, and yeah, maybe bringing another team in where ownership wants to invest some of their own money. That might be an idea as well. But yeah, I personally think that there shouldn't be any more tax dollars poured into Soldier Field. Um,
yeah.
and
No, I think I have to
Arlington
agree.
Heights Bears. It seems like it's going to be a reality.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to some friends of mine who live in Arlington Heights, and they're a little worried about the Bears coming there as far as traffic, or maybe the Bears bringing maybe a lot of people drunk driving, things like that. They're a little bit worried about it, but they, as they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it, and so they're not that excited about it coming, about the Bears coming there. But I think that as far as Soldier Field, you know, eh, you've really got me thinking about this entertainment tax. And I really need to look in that a little more, because I think about even when you go see a movie or something, there's entertainment tax. Anything that we do, tax, tax, tax. I am just really tired of so many taxes.
You and me both.
Mhm. Yeah, it's awful. It's terrible.
Any particular issues that might uh, be more focused on your particular ward, the 40th ward? Anything that your uh, constituents there might be mentioning as far as concerns they have that maybe other parts of the city are not thinking about?
Yeah, well, one thing is, like what I've done in my neighborhood for many, many years, and I did it with. I always had the former alderman, Patrick O'Connor, used to help me, and I know he doesn't have the greatest name in some areas, but as an alderman, he was great to assist you in quality of life issues. And people forget about quality of life issues, which one is the absentee landlord. He causes problems for his renters. He causes problems for neighbors, for homeowners. There can be a lot of drug dealing in those buildings, and people are afraid of their neighbors. They're afraid to call the police. They'll text me, and they'll say, what do we do, or something. And that landlord needs to be held accountable to who he's renting to. So that's a quality of life issue. Something that I've been getting through my website are these questions about. An example would be, another quality of life issue is, there's a car wash on Western and Glen Lake that just, it's kind of a big car wash. Well, right behind it are houses. Those people, and the car wash is open. It's from 7 in the morning till midnight, and the people can't sleep. The people can't think straight, because I don't know if you think about those big dryers that dry the cars. They say it's like a rocket ship taking off.
Yeah,
Every and so I went by there and parked my car, and it was absolutely horrible, because I only sat there for like 20 minutes and just sort of listened, took notes, and I just couldn't believe that there was never a sound wall built. and they should have a sound wall built, and that business just got in. So let's just say something like that. I'm for the neighborhood, for the residents of the 40th ward. The business is second. So I would go after that business as far as you got to create something here, because these people, they can't sleep at night. They can't enjoy their backyard. That kind of thing. Do you know what? And another thing that we have is curb stoning. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
So we have a lot of problems with that aren't being addressed, and things like that are fixed. They're fixable, but they're not being fixed. You come home at night, you want to park your car, and all of a sudden there's all these strange cars on your street that are there for, 6 weeks, 3 months, and they're being sold off Craigslist. So a lot of those kind of problems that, I've dealt with, and issues that, I don't know, people just tend to ignore that type of situation. And it bothers me. I want people to be, life is hard enough. I want people to be able to be comfortable in their homes, and to be able to come home and find a parking spot. So parking is a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, parking is tough in the city. That's for sure.
Mhm. And it
That's
doesn't
for
have
sure.
to be that tough. Okay. It really doesn't. There's a lot going on that, you don't realize too. And, we have a lot of bike lanes. And if you have a car parked next to the bike lane, the biker is protected. It protects the biker. But on Clark Street, we had all the parking taken away in almost every area from Devon to leading up to Foster. And small businesses, they need for a place to park. And you could have a bike lane close to the curb, safer for the biker, and a car can be next to it, because that's in other parts of the city, they have that. And that area of Clark Street is very, very wide. So we need to have people to be able to park there too. But that's not happening. And I think people have, I've heard people say on Twitter and different things like that I don't like bikers. And that's not true. My kids are bikers. I have 3 bikes. I like bikers. I just also think it's fair to have the cars next to them. And I think bikers don't realize they're much more protected with that wall of cars.
Yeah, for sure. I know. There's a good chunk of Milwaukee Avenue that is that way, where the cars park just on the outside of the bike
Great.
lane, and it does create a barrier
Absolutely.
between
Yeah.
traffic and the cyclists using the bike lane.
Yeah, much safer. The way Clark Street's set up right now is really kind of dangerous for the bikers, you know, and it's creating a lot of traffic for us over here that we didn't used to have. So a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things need to be fixed. And I don't know. I feel like I'm fixing a lot of things on my own, but I'd be able to fix things a lot more if I, had the name behind me.
Sure, absolutely. What are some of your couple favorite spots to eat or hang out to do in the 40th ward?
One of my favorite restaurants is on Clark and Catalpa. It's called It's Greek to You. And it's just owned by this woman named Vicky, who actually just does all the cooking herself. And it's just a fantastic restaurant. We can walk up there, and just, walking around the neighborhood. And we don't walk around the neighborhood as much as we did used to at night. I
Yeah.
mean, we used to take long walks at night. Just my daughter and I used to exercise at night by walking. And we don't do that like we used to, because, we're afraid of who's out there, who's driving by. Is that person
Hmm.
going to stop and get out? And, we don't have anything on us. So, yeah, but we do have, it's still a wonderful ward. It's a wonderful area. It's we have a lot going on here. We're close to the lakefront. Things can be just so much better, and we have wonderful restaurants with that we can just walk to. I'm across from the metro being built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then everything is near us. So, and it's a friendly neighborhood. Chicago is actually a friendly city, and I'm originally from Kentucky, and I think Chicago's a very friendly city.
One of my I've been up to that area in a little bit, but Fireside Restaurant and Lounge, that's up
Oh,
by
that's
you. Yes.
I can almost see that from yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice little spot, and
Yeah, it's very
good for a
cozy over
group, and some good ribs.
there.
It's a nice
And
place.
it's right across from the cemetery
Right
entrance.
across from the cemetery.
Yeah, where
That's
we
right.
all end up, you know. So,
Death and taxes, they'll get you coming and going.
yeah, it's a that's a nice area. Yeah, I can actually walk there. Actually, when people have visited me, uh, we walk from my house over there, and they're like, "Oh, this is really nice to be able to walk here." But yeah, Fireside, places come and go, and Fireside stays.
Yeah, they've been there forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other issues you want to bring up, or if there's folks listening or tuning in that are interested in helping out your campaign or getting to know a little bit more about you, where can they go?
You can go to Jane for the 40th, and I am on Twitter. Hey, did you follow me on Twitter? You should.
I did. I think I just did.
Oh,
I
okay,
think I
good,
just did
good,
today.
good.
So Jane for the 40th. I think that's your
Yeah,
your
that's
website
it,
there. So
right. Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
folks can
I
find you
can
there.
always use donations.
Of
I
course.
was just endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, which was, I was in these times, the way things are, I was really pleased to get that endorsement.
That's great.
Uh, so, yeah, I'm a friendly person. I would be a friendly alderman. I'm an alderman that could talk and talk and talk and talk. So I would enjoy seeing people, having conversations face to face. And I think my office would, if I were to win, my office would be a fun and friendly place.
Great. Well, I certainly wish you the best of luck in the upcoming election. I think mail-in voting starts tomorrow, if that's
Oh, yikes.
January
Okay.
19th, I think, and then early voting a couple weeks later. So, yeah, if you're in the 40th ward, check out Jane Lucius for city council for alderman. And hey, I'd love to have you back on the show maybe after the election and
Yeah.
catch up on what's going on in the 40th ward.
I would love to come back. And I thank
All
you
right.
for having me. I really appreciate it. Don't forget Brian Haig.
I will reach out to Brian for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Jane.
Bye-bye.
And thank all of you for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button to stay updated on the latest episodes. If you're tuning in through Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast app, click follow to stay in the loop. You can also follow me on Twitter at Second City Liberty. That's the number 2, ND City Liberty. Check out my website, www.secondcityliberty.com. And if you have an idea for the show or a guest that you would like to see appear on the podcast, shoot me an email, jim@secondcityliberty.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay strapped, and stay based.